It's time to live your stronger life. Hey, I'm Sammy, physio coach and nutritionist, and your hype girl for creating your stronger life. Here, we ditch the quick fixes and build real strength inside and out. So whether you're here to tone up, drop the body fat, build muscle, mental resilience, or ditch the diet culture, or just feel bloody good in your skin, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. Alrighties fam, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are clearing up one of the most common myths that I hear all the time, that ladies just want to turn body fat into muscle. Well, I'm sorry, you've probably heard this and you probably used to believe that you could. Well, if you do believe it, still, I promise that is all good. You're not alone, and I'm going to help you to explain why you can't turn fat into muscle. These are two completely different tissues in your body doing two completely different processes, and the body does not convert one into the other directly. So why does sometimes it look like that's happening? And today I'm going to break down why that seems like that's what's going on, what's actually going on inside your body, why this myth exists, and how fat loss and muscle gain really work. So you can get toned and lean and build muscle and feel amazing with confidence. So what is actually happening when you lose body fat? Because body fat and building muscle, two separate different processes that are going on at the same time. Now, in certain circumstances, ladies are going to be able to do both at the same time, and in certain circumstances, you're better off focusing on one than the other, but I will talk about that later on in the episode. Let's talk about fat loss first. So fat loss happens when your body needs more energy than what you're eating. So in other words, you are in an energy deficit. Your body still needs fuel to function. It still needs energy to move, to train, to think, and to keep all of the systems running. So when it doesn't get enough energy from the food, it's going to start tapping into stored energy. And that stored energy can come from a few places. I like to think of this as like you don't have enough petrol in the petrol tank to get to your destination. So you're going to go as far as you can on the petrol that's left in your petrol tank, and then you've got a few jerry cans in the boot with a bit of extra petrol that you can top the car up with, and so you're going to tap into the jerry cans that you packed as your emergency petrol. That's kind of what's going on in your body. Once you go through the petrol that you've got in the tank, you're not bringing enough in the day, so you're going to tap into your jerry cans. You're going to tap into your stored energy. Your body can use glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates in your muscles and liver, but preferentially we would like it to use stored body fat, which is then broken down, eventually turned into glucose, and used as energy as well. And in some cases we really don't want this to happen, but it can also break down muscle tissue, especially if training is non-existent or you're not lifting weights. If you're not lifting weights, this is more likely to happen, and if your protein intake is low, so you're not having stimulus and you're not having building bricks, therefore your body's like, we don't really need this muscle, it's kind of costly for us. It costs money. It doesn't cost money, it costs a lot of energy for your body to hold on to the muscle. So if you're not providing it with enough energy to maintain it and enough stimulus through training to maintain it, then it's going to be like, you know what, this is costing us too much to keep. This calorie deficit kind of sucks. Let's use muscle to break down for energy because it's just costing us too much to keep it. That's why you lose muscle instead of body fat when you're not lifting weights during a fat loss journey. Okay, so that is the fat loss process. Now, what actually happens when you gain muscle? Muscle doesn't just appear out of nowhere, and you can eat all the protein you want, but if you're not lifting weights, you will not build muscle. This is a process that happens after you train. So when you're lifting weights, you're challenging the muscles, you create a stimulus for growth. You're kind of like giving it a roadmap to say, or a template to say, build me this house. This is what I want the house to look like. That is what your resistance training is doing. Then you're going to eat enough food, you're going to eat enough protein, that's all the building bricks to build the house, and your body's going to repair and rebuild those muscle fibers so it can handle that stress better next time. You lift weights and you push to near failure, the body kind of goes, oh my God, I don't want to fail. I don't want to do that again. We better get stronger and we better get better at doing this. We better build some more muscle tissue so we have more to push, and we better get stronger so that we're not going to nearly fail again. That's why you have to keep pushing yourself to get a bit harder and get a bit harder, because your body's smart and it goes, I'm going to adapt to this. Let's get stronger. So then you got to push harder, and then it goes, I don't want to get that stressed again. Let's get stronger so we can adapt and be better for next time. Your body's always just trying to be better. So for muscle growth to happen effectively, you need those few things to be in place. You have to train effectively with enough intensity and progression over time, and you need proper recovery, sleep, rest, and good fuel between your sessions. You need adequate protein because protein provides the building blocks for your body, which it uses to repair and grow the muscle tissue. And generally speaking, muscle growth is easier when you're just eating enough calories overall. And one, fuel for training, so you can actually train properly, but also just if your body's like really low on fuel, it's not really going to want to, go, building muscle is costly. It's not going to really want to put all of that extra energy, or lack thereof energy that it has, into the building the muscle. It's going to just make sure it prioritizes all the other important things, such as just keeping you alive as your first thing. But why does sometimes it look like fat just turns into muscle? And this is where the confusion comes in, because for some ladies it can happen at the same time. So as fat is coming off your body, you'll start revealing what's underneath, and at the same time, if you're strength training consistently, your muscles can grow. So two things are kind of happening together. Your fat is decreasing as your muscle is increasing, and the result is that your body looks tighter, firmer, and more toned. And to someone observing from the outside, it can look like the fat has been replaced by muscle, but in reality it's just two separate things happening simultaneously. And this is why the number on the scale sometimes doesn't change that much. See my previous episode where I talk all about progress beyond the scale. So you may be losing body fat while gaining muscle at the same time. Now let's just talk about the myth the other way around. There's also a common myth in the opposite direction. People sometimes believe that when they stop exercising, they stop training, their muscle turns into fat. But again, that is not what actually happens. If you stop training, and your body may gradually lose muscle over time because it's no longer being used or stimulated. Now, at the same time, if your calorie intake stays the same or increases significantly while your activity drops, then you may gain body fat. Again, two separate processes, one related to your food intake and one related to your lack of training. Then again, two separate processes. Muscle doesn't transform into fat, and fat doesn't transform into muscle. And so this whole process that I'm talking about is called body recomposition. It's when someone loses fat and gains muscle at the same time. But like I mentioned earlier, this isn't always possible for everyone. If you are more advanced, it's easier to focus on fat loss or building muscle into separate journeys. And then when you're going through your fat loss process, you just want to maintain your muscle, still train. Your training does not change. Your training should not change in a fat loss journey versus a building muscle journey. Your training should still be always with the mindset to build muscle. But just know that it is harder to build muscle in a fat loss journey side of things, and it's easier to build muscle when you're at maintenance or in a slight surplus, but your training should have the intention to build muscle no matter what. But there are some ladies who will be able to have this body recomposition effect like way easier, and so they're people who are newer to strength training, people who are returning to training after having a really long break, people who previously weren't eating enough protein and start lifting weights and increasing their protein intake, and people who do begin with a higher body fat percentage. But for more advanced lifters, doing both at the same time just gets really, really hard. It's not impossible, but it's slower, and it's so much more effective to do a structured building phase where you just minimize the fat gain. You just want to kind of maintain your body fat percentage, build, and then do a little mini cuts of drop some body fat, build, drop some body fat. And that is so much more effective for everyone in general. But if you are just a bit more of a newbie, you can get away with doing both at the same time a lot more effectively. You're lucky buggers. So the key takeaway from this episode is simple. Fat loss, muscle gain, two completely separate processes. You can absolutely lose fat and build muscle at the same time, which can make it look like it's converting one into the other, but it's not. It's just two completely separate things happening at the same time. And understanding this can also help you to set realistic expectations about how your body actually changes when you train and improve in your nutrition. Now, what is like a kind of, if you're in a fat loss journey, if you saw 0.5 to 1% of your body fat per week, you could drop body weight per week, 0.5 to 1% of your body weight you can drop per week. That is like a rough rule of thumb for a fat loss journey. Now, if you are building muscle, you can look at gaining 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per month. So slow it down. Building muscle takes a hell of a lot longer than dropping body fat does. Just to also keep that one in mind in there too. But hopefully this episode has helped clear up some confusion around fat loss and muscle gain. Please share this with someone else who gets this confused as well. But just remember, the goal isn't just to lose weight. It is to be stronger and healthier and just have an amazing, confident, stronger life inside and out, not just whatever the hell the number says on the scale. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode valuable, please rate, review, and subscribe. And I'd love if you shared this on your Instagram and tag me, Sammy_livestrong. And if you'd like to learn more about my coaching and join the Project Live Strong family, please message me Live Strong on Instagram and I'll see how I can help. I'll see you next time.